There we go. Hey, Lisa, thank you for jumping on today. And just as a quick intro to the people that are watching, this is part of our series on deep dives into certain jobs or career aspects out there, so that as people are evaluating different options, they have a real opportunity to understand what particular jobs really hold in store for them, because it's hard to know if you've never done it before. So Lisa Faust, thank you for joining us. She's Chief Experience Officer for Creative Experience Group, and Lisa is an
You got
event
that
planner.
right.
Yeah, and just I know that's one of those things that it sounds exciting just by its nature, event planner. But what I was hoping to do is really understand, what is it all about. So why don't we start with, how long have you been doing this, and how'd you get into it?
Okay. Well, first I want to say thank you. I'm honored that you reached out and um, allowed me to participate in this venture. And I'm happy to help those that are interested in getting into this career, just to kind of coach along to see what you can be doing, and maybe some things you can be doing right now that may help you down the road. I think I've been doing this for around 32 years, to be honest with you, the early 90s. And
Wow. Okay.
it was right before the Olympics came to Atlanta in 96. And it was a really, for those of us that were already had our feet on the ground in the business, it was a really good launching pad, because over here you had Anheuser-Busch, over here you had Visa, or you had Nike, or you had Reebok. I mean, there were so many brands coming to Atlanta. And that's really when branding really started to kick in, believe it or not. You just would think that it's been here all along, but
Right.
there was a gradual transition into doing that.
So what
Um,
what drew you into it?
oh my goodness. Well, when I was at Auburn University, I was a volunteer on the major entertainment department. It was a UPC program. And I just kind of worked my way up to program director. And if you don't know what that is, it is basically the concert promoter for the university. So we booked all the major shows. And
Oh,
at
wow.
that time, Auburn had a huge budget. And we would literally have to get rid of the money by the end of the year, or the next year they wouldn't give us the same amount. So, but I mean, we booked everyone from, James Taylor to Lionel Richie to, back then Brian Setzer, I think, was called the Stray Cats. And it just went on and on. We had 2 or 3 concerts a year, and they were all major, headliners. But with that, you, as the local promoter, you're really the planner, because you're dealing with the catering, getting them set up in their hotels, and the transportation to and from, and dealing with the crew as well as the talent. And in a tiny little town of Auburn, I think the best hotel at that time was probably a Best Western. So we were like, we didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But and it's just, the catering elements, and this, you always hear about the rider, and what you need to get from the rider. And I remember Pat Benatar one time wanted, if I remember correctly, this is a long time ago, so don't quote me, but Pat Benatar wanted, I think, chocolate almond kisses. And those had not even been introduced to Alabama as of yet. So we literally had to figure out how to get those. And then Lionel Richie wanted Hawaiian bread with one of his meals. And we didn't really know, or at least I didn't know, what Hawaiian bread was. So we showed up with this plate of bread with fresh tropical fruit and pineapple and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And I think they got a big laugh out of that, because we were just kids. Thank God they didn't get mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I learned a lot. I probably learned more from being a part of that organization and having to put things together than I did in my whole 4 years of college, I'll be honest with you.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like there's kind of this three-legged stool going on. You're part logistics, you're part
Yep.
keeping people happy and
Creative.
making sure that things going, but then you've also got to make sure it's fun, that it comes together in a
You
way that
always have to
people
make sure
enjoy
it's
it.
fun. Oh my goodness. I've had, usually if you've got clients for a long period of time, chances are you've had some success and you've created some fun. And you do always have to reinvent the wheel and stay on top of, what's hot in entertainment, and even down to the colors. But then you have to incorporate the company that you're working with. You have to incorporate their culture with whatever it is that you're presenting,
Right.
because the Nike brand or the Sony brand, the wild and crazy sort of events that are colorful may not appeal, and they won't appeal to the Price Waterhouse companies of the world that are dealing in the public sector and its government and all the above. So you really do have to walk like you're a chameleon almost, and pretend like you are going to be sitting in that audience. And what is it that's going to appeal to me during this 2 or 3 day conference or a 4 hour event? So,
Okay.
they all have different goals in mind, and
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
to try to figure out what those are and reach them.
So what skills did you have that made you good at this once you got into it? Or
You know, I
personality traits even?
Well, you've got to have a lot of confidence for one thing, and personality traits. So for me, I think I actually did a test on myself one time from this book. I still have the book. In fact, I don't know why I got it, but it's called Start Your Brain, Jumpstart Your Brain. And it's called about, increasing creativity. And somewhere in that book, it has a test. And I used to test my possible employees when I was interviewing them. They could pick, A through D, how they answered. And this scale was down on creative. This scale was down on like mega organized, basically anal retentive. And
Right.
so I scored about a 4, from a scale of 1 to 10, 5 being the middle. I think I scored a 4. So my brain works on the creative side as well as the
Yeah.
organized side. So I'm able to do both. There are very few people that I know. I have a few friends that are that way as well, or wired that way, but usually you're one or the other.
So that
And so when you're,
that
it's
kind of cuts
interesting.
to the balance between logistics and fun.
Yeah, and it sometimes it's a natural thing because some people, no matter what you try, it just doesn't. You've got to be able to see what's coming next, and anticipate, you know, what problems could actually happen because there are many of things that go sideways at events and nothing that you planned on, but they
Right.
happen.
Right. And so what skills have you developed since you've been doing this? So you come with
I
this
think
certain personality set, but now you've even gotten better.
so. I like starting things. I like building. I figured out that I'm a builder, and I really like to start things from scratch, even down to having a parking lot and building a huge Super Bowl tailgate. I love pulling in the power, bringing in the cable network, making sure the flooring is right and all the cables are running under them correctly. And when you're dealing with, let's say, a parking lot, usually a parking lot doesn't have an address. So then you have to deal with the postal service to get an address to have your beverages and your food products and everything distributed. But if you want to, if I have to nail down one trait, I think it's thinking quickly, being quick on your feet to shift and be
Mhm.
flexible with any event, because I'm not kidding. Every single time there's something that's going to go wrong.
Right.
And I'm not, it could be really small, but it could be really, really big, like the power on the block goes down,
Right.
and
Right.
then you say you have no power and your party starts in 6 hours. So what do you do?
Yeah. Gosh.
So
So
plan B, plan C, you've always got to like come up with another plan.
right. Think on your feet.
Yep,
So what did you when you first got into this, did you go to work for somebody else?
I
Or did
did.
you just okay. And so what expectations did you have going into this about what it would be like and
Probably
how
what
important was the
everybody
risk?
else. I got my start by a pretty established event company at that time in the early 90s, and they had a really great reputation. But they started out hiring me, I was a lot younger, and I was always looking to do things for, you know, a dollar. And so I would either be the ring girl at the boxing event, before the Olympics, or I would be, back then, hoop skirts. We'd have Southern plantation events, which thank goodness
Okay.
we don't do that anymore. But I was always the ski bunny or somebody. So eventually I got noticed by, the sales and marketing team, and they liked my personality and they needed a salesperson. And they said, would you like to come on board? And, I didn't know any better. I didn't know what I was stepping into, but I was pretty much thrown into the fire.
Okay.
And yeah, you just have to like figure it out on your own in at that point in time. I don't do that to my staff. I
Right.
really like to train them, but some of it is something that because every single event is different, and
Yep.
there are the basics, but then you've got to be smart enough to make some, logistical decisions on your own and without asking mom what to do every time.
Right. Right. Well,
So,
and it sounds like um, stepping into this cold, just like when you interview people, you're looking for certain things. And it sounds like you found ways to plug into events and were smart enough to kind of notice this is how these things have to operate. So at Auburn, you plugged in as a volunteer and kind of worked your way up into a little higher role. And so if somebody was thinking about getting into this, they should probably be looking for opportunities to plug
absolutely.
into events and plan
Raise
events.
raise your hand and, ask to help. You don't always have to get paid for certain things, step in and say, I would like to be your shadow. I'd love to see how this all comes together. And for me, I think, working for the university and then, eventually getting a job with an event company, I jumped from that company to the venue side. In fact, helped
Okay.
open up the Georgian Terrace, which is right across
Yeah.
from the Fox Theater. So I was there for a couple of years, but they were not doing corporate events. They were doing weddings and, socialite sort of programs. And I was thinking, we need national business aircraft. We need, all of these big corporate events. At that time, there were some major shows coming to Atlanta, like the Sporting Goods Show and the telecommunications show. So we would literally have events, they were used to doing events for 150 to 200 people, and I was bringing in 1,500 people and
Oh,
just
wow.
doing a big, massive reception upstairs, downstairs, outdoors. And it worked.
Yeah.
And, but it's just trying to get in there and recreate and do something different. And you got to be able to, one of my assistants at the Georgian Terrace, obviously it was where they had the Gone with the Wind premiere one year, whatever year that is. I should know since I sold it for so many years. But someone came in and they didn't want to do a themed event in that, genre. They wanted to do something else. And I remember her name was Myrna, and she's now like, I've watched her grow, and she runs Novare events in Atlanta and runs multiple venues, but she still laughs to this day. She says, the client came in and they said they wanted something Casablanca. And she goes, Lisa, you didn't miss a beat. You said, oh my gosh, well, this place reeks Casablanca. Let's just bring in some palm trees. We'll put the
Yeah.
piano over here.
Yeah.
It's just, again, it's just having fun and being creative and just,
Well, I think you're right. And customers want to feel like, even if things aren't on track, at least you have the confidence to go fix them. Customers do not want to feel like, oh no, my event planner doesn't know what
panic.
to do
No,
next.
you don't want to see the event planner in a panic mode. In fact, that's one of the things that you must learn is just staying calm no matter what's going on and just say, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've got this.
Yeah. Well, as people explore careers, there's always, something that comes in to play, which is, key to everybody, and that's the money side.
Ah.
But what does an entry level person make if they go to work for a big firm? What should they expect to see in terms of compensation?
And I would say the first year, and I will tell you a good place to start is in the hotel industry because you learn everything there. You
Mhm.
are working with vendors, you're working with catering staff, you're working with, fortunately, the same venue over and over and over and over again, but it does get transformed. But they teach you a lot very quickly. And the Ritz-Carlton, the Four Seasons, they all have a really good educational program that
Mhm.
you go through. But what was the question again?
How much does an
Oh,
entry
how much
level
do they make?
person expect to
Okay, so I would think starting would be like 40 to 50,000.
Okay.
I think that would be a starting role. And depending on, if you're working for a corporation, I would think a corporation advanced planner would make about 150.
Okay.
Now, if you're independent and you're running your own shows and you're pulling in profit, while you're still paying your team and your staff and your vendors and so forth, I think it could be, depending on how hard you want to work, anywhere from 150 to 300,000.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
I
have
mean,
one friend that makes 300,000, but she works her butt off all the time.
well, coming
So,
out of the IT industry, you know, some people relish it, some people don't, but there's the event, the massive Salesforce event out in
yes.
California with 150,000 attendees. I was like, God, please don't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't want to go to that.
Yeah, I
But
won't
whoever
touch
has to
those.
plan that, they may have multiple planners. Who knows? I mean, it's so big.
They do, and they do. I have some friends that are involved with that in San Francisco, and they hire companies to help them
Yeah.
along with their internal teams because there's just not enough people to manage that many people, and they're
Right.
so spread out. That's called a citywide, and they literally take over every city, hotel, and then some.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would you say success is measured in this?
Success.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, it's rewarding financially, but that's not really why I do it. Um, Bottom line, I think I've always been one, even when I was a little girl, that I loved planning the parades in the neighborhood or the penny carnivals in the neighborhood. And we did it was because it was fun. And then, for the clients, it is, I enjoy seeing everyone have a good time. In fact, when we go through the galleries of photographs from some of these major events we do, and I see all the smiles and the laughter, and then the client comes back to you when it's all said and done, and they said, amazing job. In fact, I have one client and they had a new CEO this past time, and he just had to trust their team that we were the right team to help
Mhm.
support his vision because he had a different vision than the CEO previously. And he said, I had no idea what to expect, but when they start trying to find business for you and
Yeah.
and it's a success, they deem it a success, and the big thank you that comes after it is really all that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. But so it sounds a little bit like success is borne out in referrals. That if you do a good
Mm,
job, they're
yeah.
willing to tell your story to other people.
Yes. In fact, I think I've made one sales call and it was yesterday. And it was to one of like a sponsor for one of our events because I could see that their company was just blowing up and growing really quickly. And I thought, you know what? It can't hurt to put my name in the pool
Mhm.
because I could use another client. I mean, I think we all could use one more client because you never know
Sure.
what the economy is going to bring, especially after COVID. That was 2 years
Yeah.
of absolute nothing. And I really didn't get into the virtual element so much. A lot of the companies were smart enough to figure it out on their own. And then before COVID, there was that horrific recession back in like 2010 and things, the big marketing events, which at the time that's what I was focused on, those, big product launches and marketing events at the major trade shows, those just were not happening.
Right.
And I kept thinking, oh, I'll just go find another one. I'll just go find another one. And it just didn't happen for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And before that, there was 9/11. And so,
Yeah.
nobody was getting on planes to go anywhere. So about every
Right.
10 years, there's something. Fortunately, I had enough, within the company to
Yeah.
survive, but I did have to make some adjustments.
When obviously there's a spectrum within every industry, right? There's some people that are great, and there's some people that are not so good. So
Mm.
what's that difference? What is it about people that are really great that makes them great, and the people that just fail that don't? What is it about them that makes them fail?
They don't pay attention to the details. Like they'll miss something major and not even give it. And that's what's going on right now with some of the new planners that are coming in because they don't have the experience. They're not thinking through all of the steps
Hmm.
with the client. And I think that as long as you're doing something a little extra, you may not be making extra money on those little details, but the fact that you are paying attention, I helped a client recently with the launch of an autonomous vehicle, and it was multicolored, it was cute as a button, and I could almost feel the product,
Right.
so I wanted to bring it to life in so many different ways. And even down to the floral arrangements. We had every single color imaginable that was on that vehicle in the floral arrangements. And so even the floral arrangements got noticed, and
Okay.
the pops of color and the, it was an outdoor event. So you've got to think through, where are they going to go to the restroom? How are they going to wash their hands
Right.
to eat the food that we've brought in? And you just got to think through every little detail and make sure that nothing got missed.
Yeah, and you're right. I've been to events that are so well done, and it's because everything that you want, is there and things you didn't expect. But there's events where they did miss something, and while it seems kind of small, the fact that it was missing. So like you mentioned, a place to wash your hands.
Yeah.
Wow, if you have to walk, like 8 miles through a hotel lobby to get to the restrooms, to wash your
Yep.
hands, and they could have had, something, more
We
more
had hand wipes, we had hand sanitizers, and you just have to think through. And especially, I was just thinking about even the catering element to save money. And for an outdoor event like this, it made sense. But we did a drop off. In fact, Chick-fil-A, we support Chick-fil-A a good bit, and they did drop off. But they don't come with the containers to put everything in.
right,
So
right.
you don't want your food just kind of like piled up on a big, you know,
Yeah,
big
yeah,
pile. Everything's got to have some presentation to it.
yeah. So okay, so I've seen plenty of pictures of your events,
Uh,
with you. You always seem to be having a great time. And so,
that's at the end of the event.
yeah, I was going to say, so what is it that makes it fun for you when you think about this job? Is it kind of that sense of completion, or is it the fact that people are having fun, that you've
It's
kind of
all of that. In fact, you've brought together the perfect team. And that's one of the things that I like to do. If it's an outdoor event in the middle of a farmland, I'm going to have a completely different team than I'm going to have at a luxury summit where we have 30 brand officials or sponsors. And, these days they all want to have their own activations and get noticed. So every year you have to elevate and do something different for those. But I think, you look around when it's all said and done, everything has run seamlessly, maybe a few little hiccups. Again, nobody knows it but you. But it's that it's not getting it broadcast on the networks, like for the whole world to know about it. It's about that client coming to you and saying, that was the best one yet.
oh, that's
That
great.
was the best one yet. Let's do it again.
Yeah,
And they're part of the team. I mean, it's not just my team, but it's also all of the vendors. Hopefully we've selected the right vendors to support our efforts, the right venue, and the client, they're very involved too, because it's for a conference, they're engaged in the content and what their audience needs to hear. We're not always savvy as to what all the messages and all the trends for,
right.
but we try to get to know every single client so that they feel like we're part of their team.
Well, and I suspect that you have a counterpart at the company, and
Yes,
when they come off looking like a hero, you're a hero.
absolutely. That's part of it, is making them look good.
Yeah,
It's really not, I don't care if we look good to anybody else but them. I
right,
always say I like to work under the hood. And most of our events don't even make it to social because a lot of them are private,
hmm,
and they don't want their brand, their logo showing up so that the competitors can see what they're doing. If it were a public event, that would be different. But I do a lot of, B2B programs and
right,
some consumer programs,
okay.
but they're all different. That's what I like about it is every single event's different. Every city's different, every venue's different, all the entertainment's different, the colors are different, the branding is different.
Yeah,
So I love it. I still love it after all these years.
that's great. Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm gonna say one more thing.
Yeah.
If there's anything that you want to throw out, a funny anecdote, something that stands out as like one of the craziest things that's ever come up at an event, or any last, words of wisdom for anybody exploring this, let me know.
Exploring if you get a group of people that are really wanting to dig their heels into this event, we can get into the nitty-gritty details because that would be a totally different
Yeah,
conversation. But I think what makes a good planner, and it's a really simple thing to do, it's your attitude and keeping a smile on your face because you can get throws into the heat of a program. And as long as you smile and, you may not have the answer to something that very second, but you smile and say, I'll be right back
right,
with you and I'll get that for you.
right,
Never be like, I don't know, don't play that game card.
right,
Just
right.
you'll always figure out the answer.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, again,
Confidence.
Lisa, I appreciate it so much, and look forward to
I
catching up
appreciate it
again
too.
sometime.
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
Okay,
And this can be continued down the road.
good deal. Okay, thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, John.
Okay.